Hello, everyone, veterans, dedicated VA employees, everybody watching. I'm so grateful you've come back to watch another video where we get to discuss about VA disability. Let's continue this educational process and making the system smoother for veterans and VA alike so that veterans can get the benefits that they're entitled to with ease. And even hoping one day I'm legitimately put out of a job, meaning I've done what I've set out to do. My name is Attorney Matthew Lane, for those who don't know. Years of experience with the VA, multiple offices, multiple positions, inside and outside of the VA here. Now representing veterans with their VA claim, their appeals, and so forth. And along the ways, there's always these questions and different topics that we need to talk about to help understand them better. And that's what we're really doing in this platform, is helping to understand the process better. To make that smoother process in the end. And one of these processes that we're going to tackle today that I think leaves veterans confused, and even VA employees, dedicated VA employees, you may feel a little confused and lost sometimes with it as well. And it's just probably the complexity of it all. And that's the VA disability ratings. So let's try to understand VA disability ratings here. What do they do, and how are they calculated, and how does the VA's math sometimes seem so hard to understand, are questions that we can ask. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I do have another video out there about the VA math part and how it's all combined. Is it still maybe a little complex? Yeah, my mind sometimes works that way when it comes to mathematical equations. But I think it's a good one to still go look at if you haven't seen it, to understand how we come about that. Maybe we do another cleaner one in the future and refresher on that later on too. But what I really want to get into is really what these VA disability ratings are and where they come from. So a VA disability rating, ultimately veterans, this is an evaluation, or that percentage that's provided, that represent how much your service-connected condition impairs your ability to function in daily life and at work. These evaluations, these ratings are assigned in usually increments of 10%. They start from 0% and they go to 100%. So really you can't be more than 100% based upon the actual number at all. One topic we'll reach later on is like the specialty monthly compensation pieces, and if you're receiving a pension benefit, it could be a special monthly pension piece. That actually provides more monetary amount on top of the evaluation you have, veterans. But we're not, again, going to discuss that part here. We're going to try to stick with just that number, that evaluation from that 0 to 100 there. Now, yeah, each percentage does correspond with a level of monthly compensation, a certain monthly money here that's paid to you, veterans. You can go to va.gov. and you can find the charts for the amounts that are paid out. We're crossing a new year, so we should see an increase in that here coming up. But what's nice about it is the VA does have some historical amounts on there with the most current, and it will show you with dependents, without dependents, the different percentages and so forth, which is really nice. All right. So how does the VA determine this rating? How do they get this disability rating, veterans, when they service connect you? Well, the main tool that's going to get used here is known as the Schedule for Rating Disabilities. A lot of times you're going to hear it just called Schedular, at least for me. Veterans, this is public information, actually. This is public law. You can find out on the internet. It's 38 CFR, Part 4 is where you're going to find it at. Part 4 is going to break down the various body systems, whether it be digestive, musculoskeletal, so forth. Every system is listed. Now it's going to break down each body system, and each body system is going to be given a specific set of numbers. We call these diagnostic codes. So you're going to see a list of these codes that go through with a diagnosis or disability of such. Now, not every diagnosis or disability is listed in the law. We can't cover it all. It's ever changing, but there are quite a few. So it is possible that the diagnostic code that gets used is just the closest one to your condition, veterans. So keep that in mind. That's just another way of determining how we get to that disability rating. But you're going to see the series of codes that go down. Say on one column, you're going to get the symptomology in the middle column, and you're going to get the percentage or that evaluation that would be assigned for that symptomology for the other column. Now, it sounds very basic, and I think a lot of times we just keep it as basic as we can, and we go down, we find the condition and the evaluation, and then based upon the symptomology that's right there in that code. But now keep in mind, though, that you could receive a higher evaluation outside of what that code says based upon other provisions within the 38 CFR. But I don't want to get too lost in the weeds on that. So for the basics of it all, we'll look at just the code, the symptoms, the evaluation there. But that's the scheduler. That's 38 CFR Part 4. You can find it out there publicly on the internet. It is a very complex set of guidelines. There's a lot of other notes in there, rules in there, BA. There's a lot of notes and rules in there. Don't forget to look at those too, please. It's not always as simple as just lining everything up like I said, but it is there. It is very, very complex in the end. So let's take the idea that veterans, you have say a knee condition, maybe even a back condition. Let's do the back condition. You'll find in the back condition, for example, it's in the musculoskeletal section, but you're going to find that to be underneath a general scheduler for the back, typically, which will talk about range of motion, and it'll talk about your cervical back and your lumbar thoracic back mainly. So your middle back and your lower back are pushed together usually in one evaluation. You're going to see the symptomologies there. It's going to be based upon range of motion. You're going to find the range of motion, typically a flexion or a combined a number, or it'll change a little bit in that scheduler there. Maybe you get to a point where you can't move at all, having an ankylosing area of the back, and then it assigns an evaluation behind that. So typically, it's just that we look at what the range of motion is, and then we hit that evaluation. Now, again, VA disability ratings and evaluations can be assigned a little higher sometimes than what those say right there, based upon other provisions of the rules and laws and other notes and so forth in the scheduler. But just to keep it clean, we'll just work across. Now, if you look at the actual knee conditions I mentioned before, let's go back and look at that one too as an example. Now, you'll find that some conditions don't have the general scheduler, like knees don't. Knees are broken down into things like instability, extension, limited extension, limited flexion, and so forth. So they actually have multiple codes that can be used, and in some provisions of the law, it may be allowed to utilize all maybe two of those codes, or maybe just one of those codes to assign an evaluation to your condition veterans. So it's not uncommon that you might see multiple 10% even for one knee. Now, if you have a left knee and a right knee, you're going to get different evaluations for that, but the same codes are going to be used, typically, if they apply, say, to your flexion or extension. So, again, not to get too much in the weeds, but that's kind of an idea what you're looking at, and that's just a musculoskeletal setup there. But how do we eventually get to that disability evaluation, that disability rating? How do we even get to the 38 CFR at this point, right? Well, to help you understand that, what we have to do is look at all the claims process in a way. But I'm not going to bore you with all that again. Maybe later. No. So this is why we're gathering a lot of evidence. This is one reason, veterans, we gather a lot of evidence. This is why we gather private medical evidence. This is why we gather VA medical evidence. This is why we gather buddy statements, why we gather personal statements. This is why we gather DBQs, private DBQs, VA exams, because we're looking to find the symptomology, essentially, of your condition. How does it apply to the 38 CFR Part 4? How does it apply to the scheduler? We take the medical pieces and we apply it to the legal piece ultimately. So in many cases, you're going to find that a VA exam or a DBQ is already designed to really flow with the CFR a lot more. It's straight out boxes, tries to keep all that lined up so you can go down and say, for example, that back condition, you can see the range of motion and you can just easily line it up. And it's just really simple, boom, 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 and the evaluation is assigned. That's one way of getting it done. But now, we don't always need to do it that way. Maybe the VA medical evidence or the private medical evidence that's provided has all the information that scheduler needs in order to just line up with the CFR. VA is more than allowed to utilize just that evidence in order to make that evaluation, as long as it's all adequate for rating purposes. And yeah, if it's not and something's missing, yeah, we do an exam, or be able to do an exam. But ultimately, what we're looking at is how severe, veterans, are your symptoms in accordance with the CFR. So I think one thing we got to remember is, again, the medical, and I'll say it more than once, the medical world and the legal world are a little different. So where you feel a lot more pain and things feel a lot more worse, it may not fit that legal side as easily. But again, we can also look at other provisions of the law as well. So that is, in short, how we get the separate evaluation. So veterans, even if you go in for a claim for an increase, that's what's going to happen. You say you've already got 10% for the back, and you feel like it has gotten worse. So you provide more evidence. Maybe you go through another exam, and then it all gets lined up with the 38 CFR Part 4, that scheduler, and then maybe we can get you up to 20, 40%. Maybe that's where the evidence shows now. And that becomes your new disability rating for that condition. Then, of course, there's effective dates and so forth assigned, but that's a different story. Now, does the VA disability rating really stop there on each individual condition? No. This is where we get into that combined overall rating or evaluation. Now, that gets a little fuzzy, a little hairy, I suppose you can say. It's a very complex VA math, just the way the law is written. So 1 + 1 may not equal 2. It could equal something totally different. But I've done another video about that. I think I call it VA math. I'd go back and look at that one if you're curious about that. I tried to lay it out in a simplistic way. It might still be slightly complicated in other ways that people know, but if so, again, throw in a comment, share with how you come up with it as well when you go through that video, and help everybody understand other points of views of how that works. But ultimately, you get a combined evaluation when VA math is used between all your evaluations there, veterans, and all your disability ratings, and that's how we come out with the combined evaluation there. Again, whether it be assigning the evaluation for the first time, getting an increase of that evaluation, it's going to be evidence-based. It's going to be what the evidence shows. It's ultimately supposed to be what the evidence shows for your limitations in daily life, how it affects what you do in life, including work, personal life, and so forth. So that's the VA disability rating. That's what you're assigned. Ultimately, veterans, once your service connected, that's that percentage, that's that number. That's where we find it at, 38 CFR. We find it in the scheduler there, typically, is the main focus. But again, there are other provisions of law, because why make things easy, right? That help provide those evaluations based upon that scheduler there. But yeah, it's just by your evidence. Veterans, I can never say enough the importance of having an advocate on your side and having a representative. If you're not comfortable with seeking out an attorney like myself, I would recommend VSOs that you might be comfortable with, or other accredited agents or so forth. If you are comfortable with attorneys, hey, seek out an accredited attorney. There's a few out there. Myself even included, veteranlang.com. You can schedule a free case evaluation as well. And we can talk about your increases. We can talk about your service connection pieces. We can talk about if that evaluation was signed correctly. through the 38 CFR Part 4 and all the other provisions that should have applied. Sometimes the VA gets really busy. They're pushed with a lot of requirements and stresses to clear a number of claims, so those claims aren't sitting and waiting too long, and they do tend to what we call top sheet certain evidence and miss a few things. So we can always look at that too. Sorry, VA, right? Kind of threw that out there, and not trying to throw you underneath the bus. But I would recommend, please, don't top sheet. If you do, you might get an appeal from me. Just remember, you're working with a veteran here, a veteran who gave part of their life for the country. I think they deserve the opportunity to have that full review and full analysis and understanding of what the decision is properly underneath the laws and so forth. So anyhow, I'll stay off that soapbox. Again, that's understanding your VA disability rating veterans. That's the evaluation piece to it all. That's the basics of how we get to it. I thank you again for coming to the channel, for watching. Please, again, don't forget to subscribe, the like, the sharing of the videos. Comment again without giving your personal information or personal claims information. Any questions you've got, I'll see what I can do. Just remember, this is educational. I can't advise you in your questions. So if you do have something in there, you may even get me to say, hey, comment back, and I'll say, hey, I can't answer that. And that's probably likely because I don't have that information to help you with, and I don't want to give you bad advice along the way. I don't know all the facts of your case. But again, you're always welcome to come to veteranlang.com and we can do a case evaluation. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful day. See you next week.